Adhocracy News, April 10th, 2017. Today's top stories.
Adidas 3D printing shoes. FDA approves spit genetics.
Kendall Jenner wins the protest with Pepsi. Welcome, I'm David Landeen.
And I'm JD Melville. And welcome to Adhocracy News, your source for news about advertising, marketing, art, and design.
Before we go on to today's top stories, we want to remind you about the Adhocracy art contest that's going on right now, our 100 for 100, where you can submit art, share this contest with other people, and potentially win up to many prizes, like $100.
That's nice.
Not exposure, $100.
An actual $100.
Yes. We've learned from our own don't say that.
We'll have a link here that you can click that will take you to that video if you're interested. And we would love to have your art celebrated on our 100th episode behind us.
Also, if you have any suggestions for what we should do for our 100th episode, put them down in the comments.
Perfect. Let's move on to our top stories. You may love Snapchat due to its wonderful, unique lenses that make you look beautiful or haunted, or even like an adorable licking puppy. But this past week, McDonald's in Australia brought you a new lens that allows you to look like an employee of McDonald's. Being that 51% of Snapchat users are under 24, McDonald's is taking the opportunity to allow you to start an application with their company by doing a short clipped video that puts the cap on, the little name tag. It makes you look like you're in the restaurant with them. And of course, this would turn into a more formal interview. This is only a beginning point.
Okay, because I'm going, you can't even get them to fill out an application. Like, look, it's one thing to, like, you know, have to fill out an appliation. But you're getting to the point where it's like, hey, Snapchat us a video, get a job. But I guess it's like, there's more to that.
Yeah. I mean, this would be like their initial phone call, right? Like calling to be like, hey, do you have any jobs? Or
like walking in, like, I'd like an application.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's sort of a first point. And I mean, it's definitely working with the way that they talk and the way that they use technology.
Could this backfire horribly?
Oh, yes. I would hate to be the person on the receiving side of McDonald's, like having to sift through these and be like, okay, this guy's just joking. Okay, this person's trying to prank us.
Next.
Like the McDonald's Tinder app. Like,
yeah, I mean, I could definitely see like you put yourself in a McDonald's uniform filter, and
it's one of those things that could backfire, like McD stories.
Yeah, that could happen.
We talked about that in one of our episodes in last season.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a clever idea, and I guess it's a way of reaching out to a new generation of potential burger flippers. Yeah,
I mean, that is the people that are going to be working there, right? Is that younger generation, at least to begin with, and you know, it's interesting. I think maybe it could be more of a PR type thing. You know, we're talking about it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see how that one works out. Who knows? On to our second story. The Bill O'Reilly show is losing advertisers like crazy. You may remember that, you know, this is happening to YouTube, but this is also happening to Bill O'Reilly's show due to a series of scandals that has kind of marred the brand. The New York Times, back in the beginning of April, wrote an article alleging that 5 women had received settlements from Fox News and Bill O'Reilly around $13 million. It's a pretty large sum of money there. And since that article appeared, over 50 companies have pulled their ads from Fox News and Bill O'Reilly. This may seem like a lot, but it's estimated that the show actually has 100 to 200
so it's about
advertisers.
A fourth of the advertisers that are on the show.
Yeah, and it hasn't, I mean, they're saying that it hasn't really hurt them at all, but it's actually interesting to see how much influence advertisers have, not only over like us, like what we buy, but also how they can influence social change. Because this isn't one of those, like, we're not satisfied with your content. It's somewhat like YouTube, where it's like, we don't want to be associated with certain things, and you're putting us, you're associating us with that. But I guess it's kind of, I mean, I don't know if the media is overplaying how much trouble they're in. I mean, this is Fox News. This is Rupert Murdoch. They'll be able to write it out. There's been scandal. There's been, I mean, every show has this. But this is really a somewhat mass exodus of advertisers from a major cable news show.
And you're seeing a lot more of this stuff where people's personal lives and opinions aren't lining up. Tommy Lauren has a big thing going on as well that's sort of a lot along this line. And you had Milo Yiannopoulos and Breitbart. There are certain things that, like, as the world can scour everything that you've ever said and like be like, you once said this and that's against this. And
then the other thing though is with all of that, I mean, it's kind of like you are overloaded with scandals. So you just, as soon as the next one happens, everybody's going to move on from this one. So
that's true. Yeah, just write it out until the next scandal.
Yeah, just, maybe like create your own next scandal, like set something up and so that they can forget about this one.
Yeah. Probably happens too.
It probably does.
So our next top story is, you are a unique combination of genetic material, right?
Unless you're a twin.
And then you have somewhat similar.
But you have your own personality. You're individual.
It's true. Your genetic material informs so many things about you. Your hair color, your eyes. It can even tell you exactly what you like, right? Like the flavors of stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, this past week, 23andMe, they were actually cleared by the FDA to market these genetic testing through that give you genetic reports that assess your.
So 23andMe, that's where you can find out about your ancestry. Right now, it's find out about your ancestry, right?
You can actually do ancestry and a lot more. Like they have sort of a database that's growing that you can sort of opt into that will tell you not only your genetics but how you compare to the world around you. And the more that they get of that, the more robust research they have.
Okay, so 23, this company originally started off as Ancestry, and now they're expanding into medical.
Yeah,
so FDA, I would imagine it's probably medical, right?
Yeah, so about 3 years ago, they were actually kind of slapped with a cease and desist because they were marketing these genetic reports that can tell you risks for certain diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and rare blood disorders. So this is where they were cleared by the FDA this past week, because 3 years ago, that almost shut them down. They basically said, you can't do this anymore. And so they cooperated with the FDA. They made regulatory changes within their company, and they were cleared to be able to send the stuff out, which is really interesting because
they got the opposite of a cease and desist. They got a
go ahead and
get her done. That's the official title of the memo. That
we are serving you a go ahead and get her done. But it's really cool. My brother's done this. My parents have done this, and it kind of breaks down your ancestry, kind of your percentages of where you're from, where your mixes are. Mm-hmm. It also will kind of tell you things like personal traits, like your health recommendations based on your genetics. So you're more prone to be overweight. You need to work out this much. You're more prone to be need more sleep. So make sure that
are we going to be getting like a doctor's protest, like Doctors' Lives Matter, like where they like marches like we matter, like computers are taking over.
Well, and that's the thing with this is that there are there's a lot of discussion around this because your genetic testing and your genetic markers are only one part of diagnosis of these diseases. If you have these genetic markers for Alzheimer's, that doesn't mean you're going to contract it. And so a lot of people are worried, and if you look at the way that they have to report and say, you have this, but there is so much more. See a doctor. So it's a little bit more, so that that this stuff is there.
Things to watch out for.
Doesn't mean that you're going to get it.
All right. Well, speaking of protests, you may have seen or not seen a video, but heard about it with one Kendall Jenner giving us world peace with a Pepsi. So Kendall Jenner gets protested for her protest with Pepsi. Something like that. Pepsi released an ad this last week, which showed it starred Kendall Jenner. She's doing this modeling ad, and then there's like this protest going on outside, and this guy like smiles at her.
That's the happiest protest I've ever seen.
Oh man, yeah, super happy. I don't know what they're protesting. Maybe they're protesting like sadness.
Yes.
Like be happier.
Happy.
And then anyway, so she, like while they're out there, which I mean these protests are amazingly organized because they have this perfect like bucket of ice and Pepsi products, like
just perfectly
I mean,
placed.
it's like and it's designed really
for this
well.
person for this person who's on high doing her model shoot to come down to our level.
Yeah, she takes off the wig and wipes off the lipstick and walks out the door.
And somehow miraculously changes clothes from walking from the steps into the crowd.
Yeah, well, I mean,
she's a quick change artist.
Yeah, I mean, she's a model, so she's used to this.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so then she takes a Pepsi. She walks out to one of the police officers who's not happy because this protest is protesting sadness.
And he's ruggedly handsome.
Strangely enough. Like, as all police officers probably are. And gives him the Pepsi, and he opens it and drinks it, and everybody celebrates, and voila, problem solved, world peace, no more protests, we've solved everything.
There are so many things with the commercial that are not right.
Yeah, and the backlash that it's getting is not necessarily because it's a lousy commercial, which it is, but it's also getting a lot of backlash because they're saying it's taking advantage of political protests to sell a product. Kind of not like the tone of it is just lousy because there's a lot of imagery. There's a famous picture of a girl getting arrested during a Black Lives Matters protest, which looks very similar to this. Maybe people are looking too much into it. Here's the interesting thing, though. This ad was done by Pepsi. It was internal. They did not hire an ad agency to come up with this. They did it themselves.
So that would make more reason why. Like it explains why people were more upset with it. Like it wasn't something that was informed by research.
Yeah, it was. Hey, here's an idea. Let's make this video, and they made it. I mean,
there was actually
there's an article that basically said this may be one of the best things for agencies out there.
Yeah. In fact, one of the agencies here in Salt Lake struck. That I know people there. Their CEO put out here are 23 things that you should have done instead of this commercial.
That's awesome.
It's just really interesting. We're definitely in a time where the symbolic gestures of advertising and trying to sell a product behind that do not work.
Yeah.
And unless there is actual movement, unless there's actual placement and trying to make some kind of change, you're going to get ripped apart.
Oh yeah, you are. If you're not being a social advocate for change and you're just taking advantage of social issues, there's no way it's going to work out good for you.
And that's sort of what I think makes it sort of a bad commercial, because it's sort of like, well, what are young people into these days? Well, protests and photography, and for some reason a cello.
Yeah, well, that's
modeling. Let's put those things in a commercial. Who can we get for this? Who's sort of a face for this?
Yeah,
Kendall Jenner. Great idea.
All right,
it's interesting.
This is why you make 50 ideas, tear that paper apart, and then make 50 more ideas.
Your first idea should not be the one you go to. All right, for this morning's top story. That sounds really weird, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'm not used to that. More and more, science fiction is becoming reality, right? The things that Hollywood dreamt up yesterday are becoming normal and basically the thing that we use every day.
Yeah. Science fiction is becoming science nonfiction.
Exactly. And Adidas this past week announced their Futurecraft 40 shoes, which are a 3D printed shoe. It's pretty exciting. You may remember Under Armour's Architect 3D printed shoes.
Okay.
They came out with the shoe and they're like, hey, look at this. But that kind of showed more problem than promise in the 3D printing world and mass production.
Well, 3D printing has come a long way.
It has, yeah.
It's come pretty far. So,
but it's one of the problems with it is that it's not up to speed and cost of production. Mm-hmm. You can't do this.
You can't mass produce it.
Yeah, and that was what we saw a year ago with Under Armour's. But Futurecraft, which is Adidas' innovation company, in coordination with Carbon, a 3D printing company, developed a new and exciting technology that basically allows them to mass produce this and do it in a way that is very effective. So this will actually allow them to create 5,000 shoes in their initial run, and then within a couple of months, 100,000 shoes. So that's pretty quick.
That is really quick.
Because in Under Armour's initial run, they could only create 96, or they only created 96 for their initial run.
Yeah.
So that, the possibilities of 3D printing and technology hint towards the ability to, have customization for your foot. So I wear a size 14, rather large.
Yeah.
But say someone who has a size 9. Do you have a size 9?
Yeah.
Oh wow, that was right on. There are different people who wear size 9.
Men's or women's?
I don't know how to answer that question.
Oh, I'm just kidding.
Because there are people that have that same size, but they're much heavier than you, right?
Yeah.
So how does that shoe take that impact? How does the shoe, you have orthopedic help, you have, different arch support. So there's a lot of really exciting stuff that comes along with this. But as well, we kind of have to look at the accompanying technology. We have to be able to assess the foot. We have to, especially if it's a running shoe, right?
Yep.
Yeah. That's going to be the biggest thing is, especially because you are a runner, how you run and, how it might be able to sort of correct the way your knees go in. Or
whether you're going to be a minimalistic, whether you're going to need some pronation correction or supination correction. I mean, it would be actually awesome to see a point where it's like, this is your foot, like, you do the mold and everything. It's like, okay, this shoe is exactly what you need. And then even like, if you can get cost down enough, like run with it. Like, no, I want it different. Okay, let's just,
Yeah,
and
it's cool because at least in the stuff that they've talked about, they've shown how they can add more support or more cushion in certain areas. It's very exciting stuff.
That is awesome.
It also hints at a future of being able to print at home, of course. That's kind of the big dream, right? You'd be able to print your own pieces at home to your car and plug it in. But of course, that always kind of hits that line of how does a business capitalize on that? So,
all right. Well, those are our top stories. Was there anything that we missed that we should have hit on? If you see anything that we should hit on this next week, make sure you go over to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or down in the comments and let us know what we should talk about.
Yeah, make sure you hit back to our contest for our 100th episode coming up in about a month. And join us there. Thank you so much for liking, commenting, and subscribing to our videos. If you liked what you saw today, make sure that you click the subscribe button. We would really appreciate it. It would also let you know that we have episodes Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
And to end this episode, to start off your week, here is a video that's better than that Kendall Jenner one.
And that's a cut on rehearsal. Let's be ready to roll in 5. How's it going, Mr. Director?
Good. I'm really excited.
Well, you should be writing and directing a commercial for Pepsi. Doesn't get much bigger than that.